is DDS Live. From the DDS studios, we are your hosts, Blake Milton, Bradley Newberry, and joining us from the Man Cave, it's Matthew Two-Tone Blue Parker. Parker, it's stormy outside, but there's a storm brewing in Knoxville this weekend.
Yes, there is, and let it rain orange, baby.
I'm doing my best to wear some orange. It's not UT orange, but it's the best I can do.
Yeah, hey, it looks good on you. Not going to lie, it looks good on you. Guys, appreciate you joining us tonight here live on DDS Sports Talk. We're going to have a orange out pod here tonight, and we appreciate you going ahead and hitting that like and subscribe button down there on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Guys, let's jump right into it.
We are talking about Saturday, 2:30, Knoxville, Tennessee.
College game day.
Undefeated.
They're coming back.
Alabama, undefeated.
Yep.
But how did we get here? So both teams, really. We'll start with Alabama.
Absolutely.
Alabama
They've
has
earned that right.
Alabama has faced, Parker, a few teams that, quite honestly, they could have lost, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they've actually faced a couple of teams that they should have lost, and they've faced a few cupcakes. If you look at it, they have 3 games where they only gave up 10 points. That was to Utah State, Ellen Monroe, and Vandy. Who cares? But the other 3 against Texas, Arkansas, and A&M, they gave up 69 points, and they should have lost that Texas game, and they probably should have lost the Texas A&M game as well.
I mean, yeah, you look at the controversial call there with the sack in the end zone. Was it roughing? What do they call it? Roughing the passer with targeting. Was he down? Was he trying to make a pass? Made an impact in the game for sure. But I agree. Those are 2 games that, I mean, it kind of showed a different side of a Nick Saban team that we aren't used to seeing. They're undisciplined, quite frankly, compared to what we're used to seeing. A lot of penalty yards this year. And now with this injury to Bryce Young, now there's a lot of question marks here about what is his future as far as the rest of the season. Is he going to play this weekend? I've got some insight just based on some of the orthopedic surgeons that I've talked to about this type of injury, of what I think it is, what they think it is, what they've heard it is, and how that might affect the game as well.
And Bradley, to touch on, you talked about them possibly losing a couple of games. I mean, 2 of them are real close. So it's really 3 of them. Like I said, that Alabama-Texas game, Texas without Ewers plays, they may win this roll over Alabama in that game.
Yeah.
Arkansas doesn't have their starter for a lot of that game. In Texas A&M, I'm basically their starting quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally agree.
A kid that he was not ready to be playing quarterback out there against Alabama. Let's be real. But let's talk about this injury to Bryce Young, unless you got something you need to touch on before I get into that.
No, I mean, we'll go to Bryce Young. I was going to ask you two, in the whole scope of Alabama football this year, how huge was the transfer portal and getting the running back from Georgia Tech? I mean, that's been a big deal, right, Parker, especially with the injury to Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked about it in the preview pod. Gibbs is going to be one of the best players on this team. I mean, he, at Alabama during some of their spring games, looked like the best player on the field. That guy, he's right now, if you go bet on the Heisman, he's the 5th guy for Heisman right now. I mean, he is the team. He is the team offensively right now.
The offensive line is blocking it up. He's catching the ball. He's running the ball. He's having to carry the load.
He looks like Derrick Henry reincarnate. I mean, he's putting up those kinds of numbers out there. He is just an absolute beast, and I would argue he is their best player, even if Bryce Young is healthy. I think he's what makes that offense go.
I could touch on this a bit later, but just a quick little thing about Gibbs. And this is not a good stat. This is a bad stat if you think about it. Gibbs leads this team in receiving.
Right.
And I mean, that should say something about their receivers.
Yeah, I mean,
does that talk to more about the injury in this backup quarterback that can't throw the ball down the field?
The issues with their wide receiving core were starting before Bryce Young was even injured. The issues there, I mean, they're just not a cohesive unit. There's no rhythm there. They are not the type of wide receivers that we're used to seeing from the Alabamas of old. But yes, this whole Bryce Young injury has just exacerbated everything, and it's brought this so far to the forefront. I mean, because you have a quarterback that he just can't throw the ball.
If you want to tell us more about the injury, fine. But yeah, I was going to say, if there's no cohesion with the wide receivers, then my eyes look back to Bryce Young, and why not?
So what the rumor is, and look, guys, we're three dudes on the internet here. Okay?
Dudes discussing sports.
We're dudes here talking about this. We're fans just like you guys. The rumor is that this is actually a torn labrum, which the labrum is what holds the ball in the socket in your shoulder. When it is torn, it makes you to where you're not able to control your pivot point in your arm. Basically, it's not efficient. So most doctors will actually tell them don't just get out of the season now and have surgery, because you're not going to make it any worse. We're going to have to go in there and fix it anyway. So he can throw the ball. It just might be uncomfortable. It might be a little painful, and he's not going to have any velocity on the ball.
So that's going to be checked down to Gibbs.
So the question is, number one, and I've also heard some other podcasts where they've talked that they have some more personal insight to Bryce. Bryce is a very measured guy. Is he willing to do this for this Alabama team, knowing that he has a very bright future in the NFL draft coming up? I don't know if that's really the case. So, I mean, the point is, though, if this is a torn labrum, he's going to have surgery at some point. And the question is does he want to go ahead and do it for his future? Does he want to try to play through it for his friends here at Alabama? I don't know. But I can tell you right now, I think that the line in this game, what are we at, 7.5 at the moment?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, so 7.5. That tells me they don't know if Bryce is playing or not. That's what I feel like. Because I feel like if they knew Bryce Young was playing and he was 100%, I think it's a double-digit spread at this or line at this point. And I think if they knew that he wasn't playing, that it'd probably be more down around the 5 range.
So to that end, the spread, I'm sitting here looking at it, it actually opened at 14.5 is what it opened up. And
Ooh.
I said 7.5, but now looking across the board at about 15 different places, about 12 of them are now down to 7.
Yeah. This number is going to continue to fall, I think, all the way up to game time until they know.
Don't undersell what the UT Vols have done. And I'm not even the UT Vol fan here. The UT Vols have put together a fantastic resume leading into this point. We haven't talked about their season yet.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, this line is not only coming down because of the question marks at quarterback for Alabama, but it's because of how well UT is playing right now.
Well, that's my whole discussion here tonight is about, can UT – there's been times in the past where you look at this game and you're like, there's no way Tennessee can win this game. They have to play their best, and Alabama has to play their worst, and maybe some people on Alabama have to get hurt or whatever. That's the only chance that UT has. No, this year – they can beat them outright, I think. Will they? That's a discussion we're going to have for sure.
I mean, you kind of touched on it. Like Coach Thielen said it best back in 1934. He said, you never know what a football player is made of until he plays Alabama. And that holds true, 90 years later. But this is one of those years that they could straight up beat them. And y'all are sitting there talking about Bryce Young hurt. Will he play? Will he won't play? I'm going to sit here and tell you I don't care. I want him to play. Because there's something good that the Tennessee defense does very well. They're awful in pass coverage, right? But they are very good at creating havoc and getting to the quarterback. And if you are hurt and you are laying on your back, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Bryce Young. Yeah, I think he might start this game. I don't know that he finishes this game. And Tennessee is excellent at putting pressure on the quarterback. And Bryce Young, while everybody talking about him being the next Peyton Manning, is a different quarterback under pressure. When kept clean this year, he's 78 for 108. That's 74% with 12 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. But when you get pressure, his completion percentage drops down to 42% with only 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. And you also kind of hinted at something else that Bryce has to keep in mind is, yeah, I'm injured. What if I get injured further? What, I'm playing hurt. Am I gonna hurt myself even more by going out there? That's a question he has to ask himself, and only he can answer that. But I'm with you as a Tennessee fan. I want him to play. I want to beat them at their best. Don't get me wrong. I'd love just to beat Alabama, but I want to beat them at their best. I don't want any of these excuses. Oh, well, Bryce didn't play. Bryce was hurt. Whatever. I want him to be 100% because, look, you got to prove it every week in the SEC, every single week. And I want to prove it against the best. Right now, we're riding high. We are playing the best football that we've played in the better part of a decade, probably, if not even longer. So I am looking forward to seeing what the game plan looks like. I mean, it's pretty consistent all the way throughout the year. It seems like no one seemed to be able to figure it out. So we'll just have to see. I mean, I know Hendon Hooker has been waiting for his Heisman moment, and could this be his Heisman?
Oh, there's
moment?
no doubt about it. I mean, this is a Heisman moment.
Mm-hmm.
If he leads this team, Parker, to a victory in front of 100,000+ rowdy people on the national stage, college game day for the second time already this year, there's no doubt about it, right? He goes to the top.
I have some things written down that I didn't want to forget, and one of them literally says, "This is a Heisman game." I mean, it is for both teams. If all of a sudden the Bryce doesn't play and Gibbs goes off, we're talking about him as a top guy. Hooker, the same thing, just like you said. Although I will still go back to my preseason and tell you who it is. This is CJ Stroud's Heisman to win or lose, no matter what happens in this game.
Are the UT Vols battle tested enough coming into this game, or Blake, does it even matter?
So, I mean, this is the argument that I think a lot of people have against Tennessee right now. It's the excuses. Oh, well, Tennessee hadn't played anybody. Well, they go in, they beat Pitt. Well, Pitt wasn't as good as we thought they were. Well, then they got to beat an SEC team. Well, then they have, Florida come into their house and they beat them in a shootout. Well, Florida's not as good as we thought they were. And lo and behold, they go into Death Valley on the road in the SEC, and they don't just beat LSU. They run them out of Death Valley in their own stadium. Not even close. The score doesn't even reflect how not close it was.
Parker, I swear in the first quarter, it sounded like that game was being played in Knoxville.
It did. They took it over. They absolutely took over Death Valley. I got an argument today about how Death Valley is the best place, the best home field advantage in college football. And for the first few tweets, I thought he was talking about Clemson. But where they have an actual winning streak. And that thing where we hadn't played each other is a bunch of baloney. Some of these teams aren't as good because we beat them down. Tennessee has 3 wins against ranked teams when they played them. The last time that they had more than that, 1998.
T. Martin?
Yeah. Something pretty special happened in 98. So
and this team is good. I mean, I really was prepared to pick Alabama in this game because y'all know me. I try not to be a homer, but there's stats that just show Tennessee is more efficient. That shows they are more disciplined. I mean, just to pull one out of here, both teams are efficient in the red zone. Bama has been in the red zone 28 times. Do you know how many times they've scored of those 28? 24 of them. But Tennessee has been in the red zone the equal amount of times. Do you know how many of the 28 they've scored? 28. Don't tell me they haven't done anything, because they have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not going to be good enough for some people. Is what you just have to accept, that some people, some of them are even Tennessee fans. They're what we call the Negavols. They have the battered Vol syndrome, and they're just so sour from the Lane Kiffin and Derek Dooley and the Butch era, moving into the Jeremy Pruitt fiasco. But for once, there's just this eerie feeling amongst the fan base. It's kind of split, actually. You've got the fans that are the Negavols that are like, oh, we hadn't played anybody. No, we can't beat Alabama. But then you've got these rabid, ravenous fans that are traveling all the way to freaking Baton Rouge, Louisiana, taking over opposing SEC teams' stadiums. It's becoming infectious. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Knoxville, might register on the Richter scale this weekend.
What I like is don't settle just because you beat Florida. Don't settle and say, look, our season is fulfilled. Win another game.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well,
Keep
because Tennessee won against LSU and because Alabama didn't end up losing that terrible game against A&M, it kind of took away that urgency that one of them has to win, right? So that's the only thing that I see for both teams is it's kind of like, East versus West. I've really got my eyes on Georgia. Alabama's like, I've already beat freaking A&M. Who cares? So it's kind of like you don't want them to go into an I don't care mode. And the thing is, though, is I don't think this fan base is going to let them do that.
This is an SEC game, Parker. Both squads are going to care.
Yeah, they're going to care. And you've touched on it earlier about how much Alabama's whipped up on Tennessee over the years, right?
Yep.
Saban has never lost to Tennessee while at Alabama. I'd have to look at his LSU record, but he's won 15 in a row. And not only has he won, he's beaten them handily. He's won 11 of those, guys. And since during those games, the average score, something just feels different. I just want to show you how bad it's been for 15 years. The average score, Alabama versus Tennessee over the last 15 years, is 38-13.
Oof.
That is the average score. And this year just feels different. And like a crazy person, like I like to listen to Jacksonville radio and all these weird ones. I like to listen to the Alabama radio. And let me just tell you right now, I listened to a lot over the last couple of days. And they're scared. They're absolutely terrified. This team is different.
It's respect. And the UT Vols have earned it.
Yeah.
Believe me, they have. And it's hard. You're not going to get that from me being the non-Vols fan, but they've earned it, man.
Well, if you're talking about a shootout, my money's on Tennessee. Honestly, if it's going to be a shootout, anybody in the country, I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's Ohio State. I don't care if it's Alabama. I'm thinking my money's on the Vols at that point because I just don't see them, like Parker said, they get down in the red zone, they score. They don't miss too many opportunities offensively. And the thing is everybody talks about the defense, how terrible it is. The defensive secondary is bad. It is what it is, right? They take a lot of chances on defense. They bring a lot of crazy blitzes just to try to spark something and catch people off guard. They don't have to be great on defense.
I will say the defense, the secondary is bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They're rated the 80th, but I will say that they're almost a statistically anomaly about why they're so bad. Like they play offense so fast that they give the other offense the ball a lot more. So just some of those numbers are skewed. If you actually look defensively at running defense, it's top 10 nationally, top 10 against the run. Now that might change after a few hours with Gibbs out there, but the answer to this to beat us is in the secondary. But I will say it's a bad defense, but some of those numbers are skewed, and we've got some guys that might be out again this week on defense with Jalen Tank McCullough being charged, if you will, with some.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just address that elephant in the room. This whole Jalen McCullough thing. Have you? I'm assuming you've heard of it.
I've seen it.
It's a strange circumstance. I don't know how much you've heard about it, but it's the gist of it is he's sitting in his apartment. A drunk guy goes out to his car, gets something out of his car, accidentally walks into the wrong apartment. That's odd to me. First off, a little bit strange. Yeah. Not really sure how that happens. You're so drunk you can't read the number on the door.
No.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I didn't see it.
So there, and then as far as the media wants you to think is that Jalen McCullough apparently stood up and beat the living shit out of him in his apartment doorway and pushed him down the stairs or something like that, which sounds very odd, particularly with him because this is apparently totally out of character. So I don't really know that I have enough information to make a true judgment about everything. Because for me, if my thing is if you really walked into somebody's apartment accidentally, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get out. And then you leave as quickly as possible because you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, a 3-second interaction.
I read the police report. He goes in, And he pretty much did that. But McCullough was apparently, according to the police report, said something very derogative to him, followed him outside into the hallway, punched him in the face, and he fell down the steps and lost his teeth. So, I don't really, honestly, I'll say all this to say this. I don't really care because McCullough's not that good. So
we're talking about a secondary that can't stop anybody.
Yeah, he is the captain. He is a locker room loss. He is not an on the field loss. So whether he plays or not. So the big loss maybe is on the other side of the ball for us, and that is if one of the best receivers in the country plays or not.
So I have some insight on that as well. So his injury was a high ankle sprain. Okay. High ankle sprain, nothing was broken. He had surgery. But everybody's calling it a tightrope procedure. It's tightrope is what is the implant they put in. That procedure, they do it to try to make them heal faster. It makes their ankle more stable faster. So really and truly, he's probably stable enough to play. It's more about the stiffness probably from surgery, honestly. I would say he's going to play. He did this procedure specifically to be able to play in this game. So I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be out there other than an overabundance of caution. I think a 90% Cedric Tillman is worth putting out there.
Need him. Need every weapon you can get.
Yeah.
And same goes for Bama, man. They're going to need every weapon they can get. But is Bryce Young a weapon?
I don't know, man.
Is Bryce Young a liability?
That's a fair question. That's a fair question. I think that really affects the game plan of Alabama. Are you going to have somebody out there that can throw the ball? I've even heard people, throw around the idea that if Bryce Young can't play and Milroe gets out there and he starts doing what he's been doing, they might put their true freshman, I can't remember his name, Ty something. They may actually put him out there for a few pass plays.
But I would challenge us to strip it back further. What do you like or dislike about the coaching matchup? I mean, is it all these decisions are going to be made by the higher ups, right? That we're talking about. So
yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that not having Cedric Tillman is less of a liability than not having Bryce Young. I'm less worried about having Cedric than I think the average Alabama fan is about not having Bryce Young in this game. Because I've seen what the rest of the receiving core for Tennessee has been doing over the last few games. And let me tell you, Brew McCoy all of a sudden looks like a world beater. He looks like the second coming of Megatron.
He does. So does Jalen Hyatt. And if you're looking at the coaches, Bradley, obviously Nick Saban's the guy, right? He is the GOAT. He is the Tom Brady. If there's anyone that can stop this type of offense, I would say it's Nick Saban. But I would go back and just look to last year at some of the statistics on that. Tennessee in the very first year of this put up 24 points. I know that's not a ton. They haven't put up under, I think, 32 at all this year. But the coaching advantage is obviously going to be Nick Saban. I like Heupel and loved him. We talked about it when they hired him on here. He's not in the same universe.
No, he's not there yet. No, he's not there yet. I think when I see Heupel, I feel like he's the guy he feels like he's just playing Madden 98 on the sideline. He loves this kind of shit. He's over there with his little thing. He's calling the play before the last play's even over. You see him over there with his chart over his mouth. He's already calling the play out there. And then, they already know probably the first 15 plays they're going to run, most likely. But it's pretty interesting to watch the dynamic over there on the sideline.
I've got a question. Does UT want this to be a fourth quarter game, or would UT prefer to have a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter? Do they want to just survive to get to the fourth quarter, or do they want to have an established lead and hang on?
I have an opinion, Parker. You can go ahead, and then I'll give my opinion.
I'd say right now they need to have a lead. They need to get out quick because last year it was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. And we lost 52-24.
Ooh.
So it needs to come out quick because especially if Bryce isn't there, because if they go down, there ain't nobody in that team that is going to get them back. So get in there, get up. And even if Bryce is there, their receivers do not scare me.
Yeah, I'm with you there because I'm sitting here looking at it. If they win the toss, they take it. They go down, they score. If by some miracle they get a 3-and-out right away, they go score again. This isn't the Alabama team that I think that can play from behind very efficiently. But to answer your question, as a Tennessee fan, I want to beat them by 100.
Well, that answers it. You don't want it to be a fourth quarter.
And the thing is this Tennessee team, I don't think is just looking at this Alabama. They're looking at this season as a whole. This is you got to remember, this is year 2 under Heupel. A year and a half ago, they were a part of the biggest football fiasco that we've ever seen with this Jeremy Pruitt thing, handing out cash in McDonald's bags or whatever. So, I mean, to be where we are right now, to be having gone through what the Tennessee fan base has gone through, they're not just out for blood. This is a reckoning in their eyes. They're out to take over the entire freaking world. We want it all. That's what it is.
The UT Vols have outscored their opponents 54-10 in the first quarter of football games, but the Alabama Crimson Tide have outscored their opponents 83-6 in the first quarter. Both teams want to score fast. Both teams want to have dominance in the first quarter.
That's true.
Both of them can do it. They've proven it, man.
But they do it 2 different ways. They really do.
Going to be absolutely unbelievable. And one of the advantages is going to be the crowd.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Has to be.
You have to have the 12th man.
Oh,
bring your golf balls. Bring your battery.
There's going to be 102,000 of your closest friends there. Don't you worry. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be absolutely electric. I have a family connection that's had season tickets for like 70 years. And I usually can get them. I tried to make that phone call and I got shut down pretty fast. Pretty fast for this one. And I wanted to just touch on, I've said it like 3 times about how the receivers don't scare me. And even if Tillman doesn't go for the Vols, I think we have a better receiving core because look at it. The Bama doesn't have Jamison Wilson or John Mechie walking out of that locker room from last year who both had over 120 yards receiving against the Vols. This year, Alabama's leading receiver is Trashawn Holden. He played last year. He had 34 yards in the game.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I was talking about earlier. I mean, I am less concerned about having Cedric Tillman than they are about having Bryce Young because dare we say is wide receiver you back? I mean, that's kind of where we're getting at with these guys that are coming in, the guys that we have. I mean, if you're a wide receiver, if you're a guy that can catch the ball or run the ball, why would you not want to come to Knoxville, Tennessee and play in this offense? Good Lord.
I don't want to call it a system for a wide receiver. The system, that's the system instead of the wide receivers, but it's the system. I mean, these wide receivers are good, but I think you could probably put any mediocre wide receiver in the system. They look great, although Tillman is a notch above.
Yeah. Yeah, he is a beast. He is an absolute beast.
The UT Vols defense sounds like their biggest challenge, maybe the biggest key to this game. Be a bully and stop the run. Mm-hmm. If you can stop the run, no matter which quarterback's playing for Alabama, if you can dictate down and distance, make them a passing team, that plays into your game.
Well, and I think that's got to be the Florida game plan, right? It's got to be, we're going to make you throw the ball. We're going to make you try to throw the ball. It worked against LSU. It eventually worked against Florida. It was definitely kind of dicey there towards the end. But if Bryce Young is not playing, I think we can't. I don't know that we can compare Anthony Richardson to Milroe.
No.
So,
no. In fact, if Bryce Young doesn't play this game, Tennessee should be favored. Like that's what I absolutely believe, just because of how the matchup is. But, man, if Anthony Richardson can put up 450 yards against this Tennessee secondary, Bryce can put up 750. Yeah, but we have got to get to him. If you can get to him and you can put him on his back, he is not the same quarterback under pressure, I was saying. And I got thinking, man, this offensive line at Alabama, how are they going to be able to get to him? And I thought, you know what? I don't remember projections of top linemen on this because it's usually, first rounders all the way down the line for Alabama. Next year, do you know how many offensive linemen are projected to go in the first 2 rounds for Alabama? The answer is 0.
Oh, wow. That's shocking.
0. So it's just not the same team. I just was wrong on some of that stuff in our preseason looking at it, but offensive line is not the same as it was. You just got to get to him. And if the other guy plays, if freaking Milroe plays, it's game, set, match, in my opinion. Listen to this stat. Jalen Milroe, and he wouldn't be that great against the Vols because our run defense is good. To touch on what Bradley was saying, I said top 10. I believe it's number 11 in the country. Right now, Milroe, the way to attack the Vols is deep, right? You go deep, and that's what Bryce would do. Milroe has attempted 16 passes beyond 10 yards. Only 16 passes beyond 10 yards. He's completed 4 of them. And of those completions, none of them were beyond 20. So I just think if Bryce doesn't play, they don't stand a chance of this one. I really think that, unless Gibbs just goes off.
I mean, even with that, I think it's a long shot if Bryce doesn't play personally. But, I mean, again, the defense has got to take some chances. They're going to bring some of the crazy blitz packages, probably some corner blitzes, some safety blitzes. They're going to take some chances. There's some chances that we're going to probably get burnt on some occasions. But I don't care. Because, I mean, I feel like we're going to go down and score again. I mean, I'm not scared of that, I guess is what I'm saying. So I don't know. It's an interesting paradox for sure.
Can the UT Vols offensive line contain just enough? The All-American Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama. Some say that he's better than Bryce Young. We'll see. I think as collectively, the UT Vols have done a great job with their run gaps, with their run defense. They're averaging giving up less than 3 yards per run this year. Mm-hmm. And that's even after playing Florida, which is what they do most, even the quarterback. So kudos to the Vols in the scheme, man, with their defense.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we're year 2 under Josh Heupel. We have better depth this year, but we're still not quite where we need to be on the depth charts as far as having guys, behind people. We're better for sure, but we're still not quite there. A lot of the talent that we have on defense is young. And that's why also this Jalen McCullough thing doesn't really hurt my feelings that much. Maybe we can find somebody that's waiting behind him that might be better. But we'll see. I'm not really all that worried about it. I mean, if we think that our fate on Saturday is determined by a safety, maybe we don't deserve to win.
Bradley, that I have at the end of this, I have 3 keys to this game, 3 matchups that will decide this game. And the number 1 is Alabama D-line versus the O-line of Tennessee, because the way that Alabama could beat down Tennessee is just Hendon Hooker has 0 time to pass. Like, that is the way that Alabama comes out and they win 52-7. Like, if he just can't pass, and it's possible. Will Anderson, look this up, of all his pass rushing grades, he's won 18% every time he goes up against someone. He wins about 1 out of every 5 times. Chris Braswell, who no one's talking about on the defensive line, beats his man 28% of the time. Jesus. Anderson's got 8 sacks. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you chip these guys, what you got to do, but this is the way. If Alabama, doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, if the defensive line takes over, I mean, we're talking Will Anderson's gonna be a top 2 pick in the draft.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough sledding for sure. I mean, and because let's not kid ourselves. Tennessee they're a run first offense. If they can't get something going on the run, that severely limits us for sure.
Kool-Aid McKinstry will be licking his chops if you get into 3rd and long situations. You're going to have to control yourselves. These kids are going to have to play with some poise, man. They're going to be at home. The UT Vols are averaging almost 80 yards and penalty yards. So don't let the refs get under your skin, man. You're going to have a little bit of discipline. Don't give up the freebies. Don't have a holding on 3rd and 30. Have a little knowledge of the situation. Listen to your coaches, folks. They'll lead the way.
You know what's funny? You mentioned Kool-Aid. You know who has the lone interception for Alabama? That's something else weird to say, right? The lone interception that Alabama has is Will Anderson. And that's why I sit back here and say that the secondary doesn't scare me. Texas A&M quarterback Haynes King, who is absolute garbage, threw for 253 yards and 2 scores against Alabama last week. Against Appalachian State, he threw for 97 yards. But you're right about the penalties. We've got to be careful about that. Last year, we had like 90-something yards in penalties. But hey, it is not just us this year. The Saban team is a little bit undisciplined, which is really weird to say because this Bama team is outside the top 110 in both turnover margin, hence that 1 interception, and penalties. So, hey, they could bite themselves in the butt just like we could.
That's right. They give up over 70 yards in penalties per game.
Yep.
Good for 113th in the nation.
You're exactly right, though, Newberry. Everybody's got to keep their cool. I know it's going to be really exciting. There's going to be a lot going on around them. I think we're probably going to rely a lot on the legs of Hendon Hooker, probably in the run game. Probably going to be a lot of designed runs. We saw that in the Florida game. So I mean, they're not afraid to do it. Hendon makes good decisions. He's got to protect the ball all night. I'm with y'all though. I mean, I think the biggest threat for us really is a strip sack, a scoop and score or pick six or something like that. Even though they really haven't had a lot of luck with interceptions this year, but it's interesting.
Parker, do you have more trends stats?
Yeah, Hooker did fumble it last week 2 times, and while Alabama doesn't have that 1 interception, Hooker has no interceptions. The other thing I really wanted to touch on was, last year this game was really out of control. At the end of the game, it was like I said, it was a 1-score game when the fourth quarter started, and I just wanted to touch on why that was. If you go back and look to last year, I put this out on Twitter, the Vols defense on 3rd down was just awful. I mean, one of the worst in the country, if you guys can remember back to that. If you look at last year's Alabama-Tennessee game, the Vols, they ranked outside the top 90 nationally, and they gave up 15 of 20 3rd down conversions. I mean, it's just absolutely awful. And this year, I was hoping they'd jump up to be like 55th nationally, and they're around 33rd. I mean, it is a massive, massive change. Last year's Alabama game, Alabama ran 92 plays to Tennessee's 55. It's because they converted 15 3rd downs. The number one key to this game is, outside of, keeping Hendon Hooker from getting killed by Will Anderson, is to get off the field in 3rd down. Get off the field in 3rd down. That's my number one thing for this.
Yep, because I think if you can take advantage of that and get the ball back in the offense's hands, I think the percentages are in our favor there.
I completely agree, and a lot of that is having that discipline on 3rd down. Is if you make the stop, don't make the dumb penalty.
Yep,
that totally ruins it and gives a new set of downs.
Yep. And we can't
Alabama.
And
offense.
we can't ignore the special teams. How big special teams could be in this game. I mean, I don't know how battle tested the Alabama punting unit is. I don't even know how many times they've actually punted this year. Kickers, I feel pretty good with McGrath. Their kicker, I don't have any reason to doubt him. But I mean, this is that kind of game where it comes down to 5 seconds left on the clock and somebody's kicking the ball from the 45-yard line.
They have punted the ball 19 times. They average 40 yards a punt.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had our issues on punting. So that kind of, hate to be the downer. But hopefully we learn from it. So
just an interesting thing I found about how professional bettors look at these games. Alabama would be a 29-point favorite with Bryce Young playing. This is a big caveat. Alabama would be a 29-point favorite to an average team on a neutral field. So they'd be favored by 29 against an average team at just a neutral field that's 2nd highest in the country. Tennessee is no slouch on that list. They're at 8th, but this is how big of a difference they view these two teams from 2nd to 8th. Tennessee against that same average team on neutral field would be a 15-point advantage. So they think that Alabama's 14 points better than Tennessee on a neutral. On a neutral is also important.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that, but I still think that this is showing respect to a UT Vols program that historically hasn't gotten respect in this matchup. And maybe rightfully so. I mean, without the performance, what they have shown us leading up to this point, it may have been that 20 to 21 point spread, Parker.
Yeah, I mean, if Tennessee drops to Florida, or one of those
And
other games,
LSU.
and LSU, and Alabama has a healthy quarterback,
Yep.
yeah, this is it. If they drop both those games, we're looking at 24 points.
But that's not the story.
No, it
That's
is
not the case.
What do you guys out there think? Put it down there in the comments. Hit the like and subscribe button there while you're there too.
We don't even have to predict this game because it's
No.
not Football Fridays here.
No, we
This ain't the Pick Six.
we need the help. Come on, guys. We're dudes just like you. Let us know what you think about it.
This game, y'all, is so big, though. This is the first time that this blows my mind. It's the first time that both these teams have been undefeated in this rivalry since 1989.
Man, that's a long time. Golly.
I was 8. You two are probably 6.
I mean, do you think that, there's a whole group of fans out there that have no idea how big this rivalry has been over the decades.
You could drive a car and never have seen Tennessee win this game.
Yeah. I mean, easily. I mean,
Jesus.
I would dare to say most of the fans that are going to be there, they're excited, but I mean, their moms and dads are probably more excited about it than they are, just because, like you said, their kids have never seen Tennessee even be competitive in these games.
Man, yeah, you're right. It's going to be, the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable. I'm just trying to figure out, God, I wish I was there because it is going to be nuts. I just hope it's close. Even if Tennessee loses, I hope it's not a blowout.
Can you imagine the atmosphere? I mean, College game day is going to be there. There's going to be tailgating like we have probably never seen in Knoxville in a generation.
Look, I know Kentucky looks for a reason to burn mattresses for absolutely no reason. Now they've got another one because they're about to lose 4 games in a row. But if Tennessee wins this game, Knoxville will burn. I am very afraid it is going to be a lot going on. The goalpost will be down.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Absolutely.
Is this cause for the goalpost to be thrown into the Tennessee River?
100%. This is one of the – I'm usually against storming the field because a lot of times it's over stupid stuff. Like you see people do it against unranked teams. This is the reason. This is why storming the field and tearing the goalpost down and taking them down Peyton Manning Avenue and tossing them into the river right there by the Vol Navy. This is why it exists, is if you win this game.
You're exactly right. Totally agree.
Another question. In 9 to 10 months from now, if the UT Vols win, how many children will be born?
Well, there may be a lot of children made on Saturday because I don't know that you'll be able to get out of Knoxville for probably 2 weeks.
Little baby Hendon.
Hendo Cinco, baby. Little Hendo. That's what I'm talking about.
Little hypo.
Yeah, little hype. Man. Well,
but everyone, you have to come back. You're going to have to come back and listen to us this weekend.
Yep. We got to have our official. These are not our official predictions. We will have our official predictions this Friday. Maybe
this is just a hype show.
We might be doing a little something else. We'll see. We might be able to try to get something else going on Saturday before the game. But guys, that was a live show right there. Unless y'all got something else. What's this?
It's the angels from heaven.
Oh Lord, I hear Rocky Top ringing in the background. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Really appreciate you joining us tonight on the Orange Out Show here on DDS Sports Talk. We appreciate you being here again. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below. Hit the comment section. Let us know what you think about this game this weekend. What are the keys to victory for both teams? Not just for Tennessee, but for Alabama as well. Is Bryce Young going to play? Is that going to matter? Do you want Bryce Young to play as a Tennessee fan? I think you do, because I don't want any more excuses. But guys, go ahead and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter at DDS Sports Talk. And you can download the audio versions of these podcasts on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Gentlemen, final thoughts.
Bring on Bryce, because I don't want an asterisk by this game, and I don't want to lose to some guy that can't throw the ball. So bring on Bryce.
Nick Saban's not afraid. I think the UT Vols biggest fear will be Will Anderson and not Bryce Young in this game.
All I'll say, and I won't start singing today, I might save it for Friday, maybe even on Saturday too, but I don't give a damn about the whole state of Alabama. I'm from Tennessee. You guys be well.